Here.
Jeremy Broderick.
Here.
Craig Sims.
Here.
And Rich Blizzard is here.
Okay, we have two public hearings tonight. So a motion to open the first public hearing, library rezoning parcel 260633226017.
So moved at 7:04.
Is there a second?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, public hearing is open. I guess raise your hand if you would like to speak on the library rezone. Okay, we'll start over here. And when you come, just state your name. Do you need anything else besides name, address? Anything? Just name, first and last.
First.
My name is Matthew Benoit. Good evening. I would like to thank the Planning Commission for taking the time to listen to our concerns regarding the rezoning of the property currently owned by the Township Library. I am here this evening representing myself, my wife, and our son, currently reside at 58230 Pembroke Avenue, as well as my parents, William and Peggy, who will be moving to Pembroke in May of this year. We are asking that you recommend denial of this rezoning request to the Village Council for several reasons. Firstly, when we began to look at building in Pembroke, we checked into the property in question and who owned it, as its proximity to the subdivision, being that it sits at the end of our street, was something we were deeply concerned about. When we learned that it was zoned general business and owned by the library, with what we assumed was the intention to build, we felt it was something we could live with. We understand, however, that things change. We feel it is simply unfair to rezone this property again so that the library can sell it for more money and leave the neighbors to deal with whatever may happen. In our opinion, some of the permitted uses in that zoning district would be detrimental to the neighbors and surrounding residents. As you know, post-zoning change, if a developer comes in with a project in mind that is permitted under multifamily, or God forbid, one of the special land uses, it will be very difficult to deny the request. Secondly, and most importantly, the property is currently master planned as medium-density residential and was previously rezoned as general business, presumably to accommodate the library. Not only does the existing zoning not comply with the master plan, the requested zoning does not either. The requested zoning would see this property with its third zoning use change since the adoption of the current master plan. Ideally, any rezoning should always comply with the master plan, as it is designed to guide future growth and development for the community. One option would be to go through the process of amending the master plan so that the rest of the community can have a say in the future of the property instead of continuously changing the zoning without a plan for the future. Alternatively, because the property is located so close to residential homes, a conditional rezoning could be considered, such that if a buyer or developer comes to the commission with the proposed use for the property, the commission, the council, and residents would have more control over what is done with the property. Personally, my family and I would like to see the property sold to Lombardo Homes, who previously sold it to the library. Lombardo could easily build half a dozen additional homes on the street, increasing both property tax revenue for the township and the village, as well as bolstering our HOA. It is my understanding that Lombardo was willing to buy the property back, however, the library does not seem interested. Our request would again be to recommend denial to the village council until the property can be properly master planned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, to speak on the library? I'll go over here. Yes. Please state your first and last name for the record.
Keep my glasses on. My name is Beth Oakley. I'm actually on the library board. So, one, I appreciate your comments. Just to address a few things. The library would have interest in Lombardo's offer. It was an extremely low price, very much below what we actually paid originally for the library. And so even the gentleman's comments, I appreciate that, is not necessarily to sell the property for more money, because actually what we have it sold for is actually not still meeting what we paid for the property. because now, as of right now, we own 2 pieces of property. Because at the time, the property that came up on Main Street, we felt that that was a better fit for what the community needs. We did a survey of community needs. They loved the library being in the heart of New Haven. And part of that is the reason why the Gratiot property is up for sale now. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of movement on that property. And so in order to kind of increase the marketability of that property, to rezone it, so we can move on updating the library that we already have in process, that we are asking for that rezoning of that property. I believe I'm reading the reports that it does fit in with the community. There's a lot of building going on. There's a building that's going on behind the church. There's buildings going up all over, and I don't think that would be a detriment to that area. And we would be interested in entertaining an offer from Lombardo if it was a reasonable offer to present. So again, just, I know we're not doing this because we're going to try to make more money. We're just trying to increase the marketability so we can move that property. And it's not just sitting there vacant. And we have 2 spots for library that we're trying to kind of consider the needs of the community, the tax dollars. And so I appreciate your interest in looking into this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Lee Hillis. I also serve on the library board. I was elected this last year. I took a look at this particular property that was acquired several years ago by previous members of the library board. We're not sure quite why they purchased it back then, but we're trying to look at reality today. So the reality of the situation is our library, where it's located, appears it's going to remain there because we do not have the financial ability to erect a new building and comply with everything within our budget. We wouldn't be able to do that. So we're looking more at the short term of addressing what can we do with this property to make it more attractive. Our handicap is on the south side of this property, we have light industrial storage, and it's not something anyone would enjoy having in their backyard. So obviously there would have to be privacy fences erected. We have a large auto dealer to the east of the property. So we've got, and then we've got, of course, the people in the subdivision with the new site condos. Our proposal is strictly, we'd like to create a buffer use that would complement everything around there or be able to deal with the negatives of the property to the south, the property to the east. So from the highest and best use standpoint, right now in the village of New Haven, there's not another vacant multiple parcel for sale. But if you look at commercial, there's hundreds of acres of property that are zoned commercial in and around this area. We're competing, we're going to die before we're able to sell this property. So we've got to look at it from the reality of what's best for this community. The number of units that would go on this site is not going to be a great number. And obviously your planner is going to be scrutinizing use and everything like that. And I do believe that this would be just an excellent buffer use between single-family residential and buffering the light industrial to the south and the commercial auto dealer to the east. So That's the reason we're here. And since we're funded by taxpayers, I think we all have a vested interest in what is best for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, library?
Good evening, I'm Joe Clee with Lombardo Homes and also the president of the Pembroke South Association. Thank you for giving me a moment to touch on a few things that weren't discussed. Just wondering what is the plan for proposed transitional product from the current parcel, Gratiot, moving east and actually west into the single family area? How is the plan to transition? That's something I'd like all to consider. And then for screening, because it would be a higher intense use, how is that going to be applied? Property? To piggyback on one of the comments, we've been telling people they've been buying homes from us that would be a library one day, and now that seems like that would not be a reality. So we understand economics, business, and everything, and that's not always the case, but it's just something that we want to make sure you are aware of, that that's what the expectation is set with our clients and any buyers. So we'll obviously address that as we move forward. And then somebody else had mentioned considering the conditional rezoning. Typically a conditional rezoning comes with some type of plan in place that is being presented, which doesn't sound like this would kind of apply in this case, but maybe there's a way to place conditions in the conditional rezoning that address the public comments that are here today. That way, whoever does come forth with the library to pursue purchase of it knows that there's these things that they have to comply with. One of them being specific to our needs, and for Pembroke South, residents down the road, is there's an agreement we have with the library that the portion of the road that is shared is a cost contributed by the library, which would obviously be passed to the landowner, that they would be obligated to cost share in any maintenance and repairs of that road in that section in perpetuity, obviously, because they're going to be accessing that property through that road. That will be a village road at one point. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to speak on the library? Okay,
Motion to close at 7:16.
for a second?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, opening the public hearing for the temporary batch plant special land use parcel 260633376007. Is there anyone here to speak on the temporary batch plant?
So moved to open. at
Oh,
7:16.
sorry.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Brooke. Batch plant?
Hello, my name's Gary Evangelista with Mark Anthony Contracting, and I applied for a special use permit for the use of the property at the industrial site where Ajax has their current asphalt plant. A request to operate on that facility. We have, first of all, we're a concrete contractor. We pay concrete roads. So basically, we're looking to we have a job at 26 Mile Road. We have like about 10 days worth of work. And also GT Scrap Metal has inquired us to do the improvements to their property just west of the railroad tracks. And so basically, we're looking for approval to operate our plant there.
Anything else? You good? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else to speak on the batch plant? Okay, motion to close the batch plant public hearing.
So moved at 7:18.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Approval of minutes dated March 4th, 2025. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for March 4th as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Lucy? All in favor? Any opposed?
I'll abstain since I wasn't here.
Motion carried with Commissioner Pennell abstaining. Communications correspondence workshop, we have none. Old business, we have none. New business. Library rezone, parcel 260633226017. Let me pull this. Okay, did everybody have a chance to review all that? Okay, did any conversation? Rachel?
Jen, I ran out with my library packet, but they're asking to be rezoned from,
Before we go too far on this, I'm just gonna say, like, we can have the conversation at the table, but as we were just discussing in the back, a lot of our opinion coming from planning is based on the fact that our zoning map has the library parcel hashed as a part of a PUD. We are not 100% that the library parcel is a part of the PUD because it's zoned differently. It wouldn't be zoned differently if it were a part. Can't zone different things within the PUD differently. So, I don't think so. Yeah,
You could mix use in the, to
Can we?
a PUD.
can we have different zoning within the PUD?
PUDs, PUD doesn't reflect, the PUD doesn't reflect zoning, it's a zone in itself.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually say this is this type of zone or that type of zone. What you'll have is usually design standards and criteria in the PUD that allows you to get away from certain dimensional requirements, things like that.
So we need a legal opinion.
Well, we need to pull the PUD, which is what I was trying to do, but we could access it at this time. To confirm. Do you-
Yeah, I did real briefly look at the PUD, I didn't see much in terms of detail, but it would be better if we had a chance to really dive into this, see if it really affects.
So you're looking for a motion to table?
Well, we can have a conversation this evening and then possibly, I think we'll probably end up needing more information to make a decision.
I mean, I have lots of comments actually on this one. I mean, I was promised a library. I want the library. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for years to get my library. And I think, even for the library, I think it'd be a nice idea to give our new, exciting, and experienced planner some time to see what he can do with our village. We're going to make a lot of changes around here, and he's got a lot of experience that maybe will help get you where you need to go as well. I always like the idea of that library there, for the pure fact that it's on Gratiot. Everybody going to Lennox, everybody going to Richmond would drive by it. And I saw such a transformation down at the Mount Clemens Library that I go there now. I've driven by it for 15 years and never walked into it once until it was remodeled. There's a big old sign out there that has every event that they're doing. I went there and seen the history of Faygo. The place was packed. It was so impressive in the building. The kid area was just full of kids in a Lego setting. It was just, it was much more multimedia. It was really impressive. I don't know if you guys have toured it, but man, it was impressive. So ever since then, I really pictured that property being something of our future that would bring people here. And I think we have the community that would back it up in a bond. I mean, it's all families here, it's all houses, it's all kids. You know, I patronized our current library, and it is what it is. But it's not, and we've had some incredible directors there over the years, and they've done very impressive things there for what they could do there. You know what I mean? But I've been waiting for the future to come. And very excited about what our future might be when we start utilizing this van down at the end of the table here to bring us grants, bring us development opportunities. And I hope we give them a shot to maybe do that. I know you guys are on your timetables too, but I have to wait a long time.
I'll go to Lucy.
On the other side of the coin, I don't want to lose my library. And, you know, their plans are to enhance and enlarge. And if it's more affordable and something that they can accomplish versus land sitting empty on Gratiot while they wait and not have the money, I would rather see them expand.
Chris?
Let me get back to my original question to you.
Sure.
Because I forgot my packet. The request to rezone from
General business and multifamily.
two more. Okay. With that being said, I understand the library's trouble with financing. Back when I was village president, I was approached by the library board wanting the village to, for lack of a better word, co-sign a bond. And of course, you know, as a village, we couldn't and shouldn't. Okay? We're not in the business of co-signing. And with the current tax structure, the library would have a real difficult time generating enough fund to build a new structure, because I know the cost would be a few million. You know, so I understand their issues as far as financing. And so that takes me back to what the request is for rezoning. And I don't know offhand, I don't have in front of me what multifamily would potentially allow. You know, personally, I think that the best possible situation would be for Lombardo to reacquire the property. You know, I mean, that would make that whole area single family. There's no issue with road maintenance. There's no issue with nothing. It's just all houses. And maybe that's one thing that the gentleman over here with the striped socks. I see the socks.
Joe?
You know, maybe that conversation, maybe they could revisit that conversation. And maybe the library board in Lombardo can get closer on a potential sale price. You know, this is going to be something that, you know, this board right here is, you know, we're going to have to tussle with this one, because it's, you know, there's the library on one hand and their inability to build a new structure. And on the other hand, we have to consider the new residents of Pembroke South and what may or may not affect their property values. So, you know, we'll see what, you know, but, you know, you raised the question about the PUD and the potential of, you know, so those some things that we need to get answered, you know, so that when we do make a decision, that we're making the correct decision and a legal decision.
Thank you. Great.
I haven't kept up on the library board meetings. I don't know if they've done any kind of cost benefit analysis, or if they would have more foot traffic, more people going to a library on Gratiot as opposed to the one that's downtown. How much it would cost to build, versus how much it's going to cost to purchase the extra properties and completely renovate what is there currently. What is the difference in that, and then can that be made up by more people going there? Has bond been discussed, being proposed to the township and to the village of New Haven? I just have more questions than that. I don't know. We're trying to get more business up and down Gratiot and not multifamily homes. So I'm really kind of concerned with that and what that's going to bring as well, and mixing way too many different zones. Spot zoning one small parcel is something that we try to avoid very hard for almost the entire year we were working on the master plan. So I have my concerns about changing what we already have.
Rachel?
I showed a concern with changing it, and even in the future land use, we put that as single family, so. We did go through each individual parcel with the zoning map, and I agree. I read the spots on
Lynn? Okay. I didn't.
I did want to have one extra, your comment about the area and your southerly neighbor and selling that property for what it's truly worth, I see where is the hindrance with what it's, but that's also one of the things we're contracting with our new, our planner is to work on our code enforcement and cleaning up blighted issues, which will help everybody, property value-wise in the village of New Haven, if all neighbors were cleaned up. I do totally have sympathy for, I can see why it's gone down in value. I mean, it's just, you're in a bad spot with what's currently going around your property.
I will add that when we were doing rezoning, we looked at Decorah Park North, and we had multifamily there, and we opted to go single family for the cohesiveness of the development. I can understand and empathize with the library. I can also empathize with what people have been promised, and, you know, I think a few of us here have been promised things over the years and not come to be. I do think as a table we need more information on specifically the PUD, the opinion that comes with it, the property, and what the consideration of what multifamily even looks like there, and how much oversight or control that we would have towards what potential multifamily is there. We don't have those current standards in place to even say, oh, wait, that's not a good look. If it's multifamily, it's what we get. So I think that's to be taken into consideration as well. So, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Yeah, typical rezoning, we look at master plan primarily. On the background, the master plan for this is medium density residential, which is primarily single family, the smaller lots in the families. It does have a sentence in there that townhomes and duplexes on certain parcels can be acceptable. However, when we try to compare that to the multiple family district, like we always do, we find out that in the SF2, which kind of coordinates in density, we ran density modeling, and when it correlates SF2, the one clause that says duplexes or townhomes may be acceptable doesn't fall in the SF2 district. So it's causing us to kind of go back and forth trying to figure out, critically think where we want to go. Now, the multiple family zone does allow duplexes and townhomes. However, it allows a lot more than that. And so that's where it's causing us a concern. There's other tools out there, but I think the traditional rezoning, once something gets zoned, folks can sit there and say all they want at the counter. They can put a site plan in front of you right now and show you what the site plan is. As soon as they get their rezoning, they can pull all that off the table. And what you got left is whatever shows up in that list, principal, accessory, or special land use, that's fair game. So the only tool that I could see that we would look into and take a little bit of discussion with the library board, but they have a tool called conditional rezoning. where you can allow the rezoning to happen, but under special conditions which the library will offer to this board and to the council. How that works is if you want to go that route, they come in with an offering, and this board or council can either say yes or no. There's no negotiation. And so you have to do some discussion. But it's up to, they have the right to apply for conditional rezoning. So they would have to pull this application off the table and start from scratch. But it is another option. That way you can set up the density you want, the types of homes you want. Could be the public library that still stay there because of the conditions set. But it's up to however this commission, the council, really wants to proceed. With this, I'm not totally comfortable, because it's kind of, we gained some new information since this review was actually written. So I'm not totally comfortable with blanket rezoning. I would rather have some controls over that rezoning to make sure the master plan is met. Because the master plan won't be met if some of these other uses come into play.
Thank you. Are you good?
Yeah, but
Anybody? Comments? Okay.
Motion to table until we learn more information, bring it back at the next meeting.
Is there a second on that?
Support.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
And the main thing that we're, well, not the main thing, but one of the things that we are going to do starts with the questions about the PUD.
yeah, we're going to go in more in depth. We looked at it very briefly as part of this review, but we need to really dive into it a little bit.
A temporary batch plant, special land use parcel 260633376007. And I am going to start off with Dave on this one.
Thank you. We end up waiting 2 reviews for this plan. There's one review dated March 20th that you got, and then after that review was done, the applicant gave us back some more information on what they're doing, and he updated that one with the March 30th review, so that's the valid one for you right now. The upper date, make sure you have the March 30th one. This is the one that we responded to their additional information. A couple of things we want to point out is, one is, even though the title and the application says a temporary concrete batch plant, this is not a temporary concrete batch plant. By definition, a temporary plant is tied to one single project. If someone would be paving 26 Mile Road, that batch plant opens the day that paving project starts and closes the day that a paving project ends. So this is actually a regular special land use for the parcel. And in a way, it may help the applicant if he got through this, because once a special land use is on there, it stays a special land use. It provides for the property, and as long as no conditions that the commission can set and the council can set, as long as those aren't violated, then that can stay. You don't have to keep coming back to the commission. So there's pros and cons to this. The standard we look at, a couple things. We're going to go through the report. I'm going to start on page 2, the special land use standard. The ordinance has standards that we have to review. As another item that we had to challenge with is we received a series of Google Earth or something aerials with this dimension. It is not a site plan as defined by ordinance. An ordinance has a site plan, which I'm sure you've seen from architects, engineers, and so forth, that have dimensions, that show where the plant is, and things that we have not received that. So even though it probably should have been rejected, the application at the point that we didn't have a proper site plan, we proceeded the best we can with the applicant. The applicant was gracious enough to respond to our questions. So I'm going to run through some of those right now. The first item is all information submitted to site plan standard as required in section 515-100. Site plan review have been met in regards to the site plan submitted for the requested land use. Our response, we still find the site plan provided is still missing important details. The site plan provided generic drawing missing essential dimensions of setbacks, roadways, for example. Another essential item missing is a landscape and maintenance plan. Does everybody know where we're at? Does it go through? Another item that we went through, a second item, is egress to the site shall be controlled, designed to maximize vehicular and pedestrian safety and convenience, and minimize traffic impacts. We did review their license and the indemnification agreement that was given to us. We did confirm that the egress access for the subject site has been granted, so they have the ability to get on the site as granted by the property owner. Another item standard 6, says the use shall be screened in accordance with the screening and buffering criteria detailed in section 51591 and the specific screening and buffering requirements for individual special land uses are detailed in this article. The applicant said plant location will be more than required from the 50-foot buffer from the rail line. Plant setback locations are identified in the proposed site plan as attached. Again, we did not receive a site plan, and on the plan shown, we did not see any landscape buffer, any details on that buffer. Item 7, the use shall be properly served by utilities, whether public or private. We had to kind of defer to the fire department and DPW at this point, they were going to know water usage and such. We did hear in the past that the fire hydrant was used. Not sure, we heard there might be a violation because it wasn't properly metered at the time, but the fire department, I guess we would have to confer with them. Item 9, again, there's a series of items, but these are the items that triggered the applicant to respond. The use shall be in conformance with performance standards in section 515-90. As mentioned in the previous review that we had, and based on departmental comments, operation of temporary advantage plan have not been in compliance with performance standards in the past. A particular concern are dust and noise standards. Based on performance standards, it's hard to get that ahead of time. It's afterwards compliance that you have meters and stuff to make sure they're meeting the thing. But according to the department that we had in the past, there seemed to be some question as to whether they were meeting those performance requirements in past experience. You shall not impose an unreasonable burden upon public services and utilities in relation to the burden that would be imposed by permitted principal uses in the same district. They've operated in the past, but we still defer to the Department of Public Works and Fire Department for their comments. They would know the water usage. In terms of zoning ordinance, section 515-134 identifies special land use standards applicable to a concrete and asphalt plants. Item A was the applicant shall demonstrate the plant location is appropriate based on the source of sand and aggregate materials for the plant. A market study shall be included which demonstrates the use of a specific facility proposed to serve the surrounding area. The applicant, you can see in our review, had a long requirement, a comment that we took into consideration, and our response at this point is the planning commission to look at the location, and to look at the location that's on page 4 of my review, it's copied in there, that they agree with the location, if they're okay with that. So it's up to the commission right now to discuss the location. Item B, site plan shall demonstrate, supported by written reports submitted by the applicant, strict compliance with local, county, state, and federal requirements for air, groundwater, and surface water quality. In particular, a written report shall address compliance with performance standards of section 515-90, the groundwater protection standards and storage of hazardous substances as specified in section 515-100, site plan review. Again, our comment here is we do not have a site plan review as defined by the zoning ordinance to make any comment on that project, on that parcel. On page 5, we're looking at the anticipated life of the plant in years shall be specific and tied to the operator's anticipated local reserves of the sand and aggregate materials for the plant. Again, there's another large comment. Look on page 5, rather than belaboring and getting into this entire reading this, I'll let you read it. And our comment is, it's up to the planning commission. They agree with what the response is to what the standard is. The site shall have direct access to paved regional major thoroughfare as item D in the standard. We did, as previously said, we reviewed the license and indemnification agreement, and we do confirm that they do have access, proper access to the property. All plant equipment shall be set back a minimum 1,320 feet from any district which permits residential uses and 250 feet from any property line. They did add that general aerial photograph with some dimensions. Again, we didn't have a site plan to see what the specific dimension was from the setback from the property line to the batch plant. F, the plant itself should be screened on all property lines by 50-foot wide landscape buffer strip, or screen wall / fence, and adjacent green belt in conformance with section 515-91. The planning commission may require additional landscaping or screening where the planning commission determines it is necessary to prevent negative impact on adjacent properties or right of way. I go over to page 6. The applicant said the proposed site plan located within the Ajax plant 1 yard. The property contains existing fencing encompassed by existing landscaping and vegetation surrounding the property fence line. And our response is all existing proposed landscaping must be provided on a proper site plan to review compliance with the ordinance standards. And you have standards in there for dimensions, types of vegetation, and such. The last one, item I is a temporary, you talk about temporary concrete or asphalt plants are proposed in conjunction with specified road improvements or large-scale projects may be permitted by the planning commission. We determined by definition this is not a temporary concrete plant, this is a permanent concrete plant. It may be seasonal, but still permanent. Which may pay, if we can get through these items and the applicant at some point can reach an approval from this village, then it does provide his benefit because he doesn't have to go back. He's got these requirements as long as he matches the site plan year after year. At the end, we wish to, our recommendation is until we can get a site plan in place, we recommend a postponing of this approval or review until we get something more in place that we can actually compare the ordinance to what's required. Work on the site plan. We did think the applicant did get back to us right away, trying to answer as many questions as he possibly can. He satisfied quite a few of our concerns. It was just that one site plan that's causing us from not being able to properly review the application.
Okay, and thank you. For the record, there does not appear any problems with fire savvy that they gave approval. Sir Med could not be here tonight. Did everybody get a chance to read his opinion? Anybody did not? Okay, so I'll just summarize it as the recommendation is at this time, we are unable to recommend approval by the Planning Commission as there are several design items not addressed at this time. However, as appropriate, the Planning Commission may grant conditional approval subject to the planner's administrative review and approval. These, I'm not going to read it all, you guys. There were some general concerns: water main, sanitary sewer, paving, grading and drainage, and landscaping problems. Sir Med is available for me to call if you would have any questions for him. Let me know, and then also if you have any questions for Dave at this time. Anybody?
Yeah, I have one.
Would you like Sir Med as well, or?
No.
Okay.
I see in the face when I'm talking to her. You're saying that, in your opinion, this is not a temporary.
No.
So if it's considered a permanent, then should they be using the fire hydrant as a water source?
I'm not sure, I wish I could give you an answer. I don't know, I have enough experience here to see what the city, what the village's policy is on that. In the past, what I understood was, fire chief, he said that they put a meter on there and they back charge the applicant for that. If that's a policy to allow that to happen, then okay. But I also heard that water may have been being used without a meter.
Yes.
That's,
Yeah, we know that for a fact.
yeah, that was not, that's
But
not,
I guess
that's
my
not
question
acceptable.
is that if this hydrant is is occupied with a temporary line, and in case of a fire, say at the asphalt plant,
Yes,
now we have to somehow disconnect, make sure we have the ability to disconnect, to utilize that hydrant to fight the fire.
don't disagree with your thinking there. I'm not an engineer, I wish I could answer more detail, but my math wasn't so good, so.
Anybody else?
That's my concern.
It's pretty great.
Because I know the asphalt plant tapped into that hydrant during their off-season to clean their plant. But that's just for a short period of time. But if this is gonna be utilized on a full-time basis for this concrete plant, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many meters, hydrants are back there, but, you know, we could have an issue there.
Anybody else? Would anybody like me to contact Sumit for questions on his opinion?
I'm not comfortable not having a site plan
I
either.
don't have any questions until I see a site plan.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on it? Motion from the table?
I'll motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried to table temporary batch plant special land use. Okay, planners report.
Planner.
You want an update?
Oh, okay, there's a lot happening.
We've
Let's put
got-
it this way.
Well, this is where we're here till 9.
Okay. It's hard to keep up with everything that's happened since we've been here. I've been on one Zoom call with the village president to look at historic structures and see what it takes to either get national historic designation or actually get an historic district done. We were on the call with the state's historic preservation office. That was 1 week. Another week is, next week we got involved with the Redevelopment Ready Communities program from the state of Michigan, and we were on a Zoom call. Brian, Jen, and I were on a Zoom call with them to find out what the requirements are to become certified. And so we were quite a long call, very, very good. Both Zoom calls are very good, plenty of information. We've also held our first code enforcement meeting to start strategizing what to do in terms of code enforcement, what we can do, can't do, sharing examples of what other places have done. And you got a really willing crew to get out there and make it work. And other than that, the rest of the time, been either answering calls, there's been two pre-application meetings for the same property on the east side of Gratiot. Oh boy, I think it was a car repair place at one time, it's been vacant for a lot of years. It looks like a metal building with 2 garage doors on it. You know which one I'm talking about? That one, there we had 2 folks come in. Both were landscape companies. One was more industrial based, so they wanted to bring big trucks in and loose material and things. The second was a husband and wife team that came in that want to do 2 things. One is they want to stage all their lawn maintenance people here, not heavy duty landscaping, because they subcontract, but just the mowing and things like that, as well as doing sales of flowers and things on the frontage, on the front. And so we met with them, gave them let them know what type of paving they need to do and what needs to be done. They were surprised that a big part of that parking lot on the front of that building is actually cannot be reused. It's in the state right of way. And so it's like everybody's kind of surprised, but both times are good meetings because they walked away with enough information. Let's say we try to load them down so they can make their own calls. We're not pushing them one way or another. Let them make their call. We have 2 pre-application meetings next week, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we have 2 next week. I don't know where they're at. I don't know in detail. They just came across today, came across the wire, so I'm not sure what they're about. And the rest of the time, we've been just trying to research. And when the MEDC, with the state of Michigan, gave us those documents and things to look at, we were looking at different documents that got people certified. So we've just been doing research, trying to find out, get samples of what they've done in the past and see what we can apply here and get moving. They did say to get certified in RRC, It takes most communities this size about 5 to 7 years to get certified. The number of documents you have to do. There's budget constraints too. I mean, you have to do a capital improvements program. You may want to do a DDA. There's a series of things you can do. You don't have to do them all, but they take budget, they take time, it takes some horsepower. So we're trying to pull together a strategy to see how to proceed. That's it, helping staff with zoning questions, that's, you know. That's my report.
Thank you. Okay, public comments on non-agenda items? A call from the table.
No.
Anyone? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
7:54.
All right, motion carried, all in favor, yes.
Well,
Good job, Jack.